so here we are, now about halfway through February, and Blizzard has yet to give us a release date. And I still think end of February is going to be when we're getting this thing. February 25th is the date that I've been pinpointing for the 11.1 release. We know 11.1 is now in the release candidate window. It's been changed. It's now ready to be released. Blizzard just have to give us the damn date. Will they give it to us? Let's see what Dalaran Gaming has to say about 11.1's release date and 11.1.5. That's right, the next patch after. Here we go.
Hello guys, how's it going? My name is Dal, and Season 2 for The War Within should be launching sometime
5th of
soon.
March, you think?
As of right now, however, we don't have
Could
a
be.
release date, but players right now are trying to speculate when this release date may be. With a lot of you actually looking to take time off from work or whatever other responsibilities to fully degen and enjoy everything Season 2 has to offer, from the new zone of Undermined, the drive system, the massive slew of class changes on the horizon, huge improvements to Mythic Plus, Delves, raiding, and even PvP adjustments, and plenty of other features that a lot of you guys cannot wait to sink your teeth into.
I can't wait to get them
so
out.
For today's video,
I have to say, I feel like Blizzard waiting this long to give us the release date, if it is in fact February 28th, actually, or February 25th, it kind of scares the shit out of me. I'm not going to lie, because that means either they've had internal problems and they've been afraid to kind of lock in that release date, or there's something else going on in terms of, I don't know, the patch after or whatever's happening with Mythic Plus. I have no idea. But it could be a sign of problems, which is kind of scary to me, because waiting until 2 weeks before the release to give us the release date is cutting it pretty damn close.
What is that, do a little bit of a theory crafting regarding when 11.1 will be launching, because apparently not only are they working on the patch 11.1, but also 11.1.5, which is the next content update that's arriving after Season 2 is launching, and it looks like they're already starting to do internal work on that, which may mean good news for 11.1, as in it'll probably launch within a handful of weeks from now. As always though, if you guys want to see more regular War Within updates such as these, be sure to follow the channel and subscribe. But otherwise, let's dive right in.
Yeah, Shamika, if I had to put money on it, I would say yes, this week we are going to get a release date. Almost certain. Whether or not it's going to be March 5th or February 25th, I have no idea. March 4th would probably be the Tuesday. That would make sense. It's one of those 2 weeks. It's going to happen this week. We're going to get the release date.
So before you put on your 2-week notice, I did want to first go over exactly when we think patch 11.1
2-week notice. People are quitting for this patch.
That there's right now no official release date, but there's so many different signs in the game that point to very soon, and we may actually have some viable dates for the release, but also even more info that apparently they're starting to do work on more than just 11.1. They're starting to do more work on content beyond the seasonal update.
That makes sense.
Which means that this thing got to be coming out really soon. 11.1 has been ongoing for a while with a ton of class testing, but also a little bit more raid testing than usual, as they're having to get players back into the raid instances to test out some of the content, which initially led us to think that maybe there might be a slight delay, but that doesn't really seem like the case anymore. Certain things have been finalized in the game, and usually when we see these things appear in the game, that usually means good news, such as the splash screen being finished, like when you press the what's new button.
Right.
You see a brand new screen showing off new seasons, some of this.
Yeah, we've looked at the splash screen. Delve development, introducing new rewards, curios, a new nemesis, and improved rewards for the highest difficulty. Season 2 begins, updated dungeon and PvP. That makes sense. And then liberation of Undermined. Join the united cartels and freeing Undermined from Galliwix's clutches.
Seasonal content. This is one of those features that usually is made towards the tail end of a PTR update. Like as it's getting really close to a proper release, this is usually one of the last few things that is being done outside of base class tuning. Also, recently, 11.1, this current build that came out this week became all of a sudden a candidate build instead of a testing build.
It's a release candidate, which means that this thing is ready to go. Like this is not for testing anymore. This is a ready to go release. You know, if there's any tweaks made, they're of the finest sort. There aren't any big changes coming in anymore, which means this thing's ready to go.
Which means we are to expect even less significant changes going forward, as it looks like this is most likely going to be the build coming out to the live realms very soon. This is going to be one of the last few builds for Season 2, outside, again, like I said, basic regular class tuning, which isn't necessarily a new feature. It's more just tuning the knobs in terms of how well classes are performing to try to achieve a balance as best as they can, and that's usually almost never never existent in a new season. But it does mean that when a build becomes from a test build to a candidate build, it does mean that this update got to be going live within a month or so, usually.
Oh God, hopefully not a whole
right
month.
now it has 2 active events that may signal when we're getting 11.1. That is the Plunderstorm event, which has been ongoing for roughly almost a month now, as well as the Turbulent Timeways event.
I will say the Plunderstorm event died pretty quick this time around. It did, and I think it's because they gave us so much plunder very quickly and not enough for... They should have given us more rewards. I'm not saying they lessen the amount of plunder we get, but add more rewards on the back end, because now if you queue up for Plunderstorm, it's like a 10, 15-minute wait for a match, whereas before it was like an insta-queue. And that's because just everyone got everything they wanted right away. There's no more people playing.
Event. And both of these updates, both of these events in-game were set to give players something to do ahead of Season 2.
But I did enjoy
Plunderstorm.
Plunderstorm.
To catch up on new odds with the Turbulent Timeways event, or if you look to farm new transmogs and a variety of other rewards through Plunderstorm. Plunderstorm end date is actually on February the 18th, which may be one of the plausible release dates for the patch 11.1, at least on paper, which may mean that in about 10-ish days or so, we may be getting the release of 11.1. It is possible, but as we draw closer and closer to the 18th without any specific announcements by Blizz, it does become a little bit less likely. Then we have the Turbulent Timeways, which for the expansion of Dragonflight,
this is the big hint. This is the big hint right here. Listen to this.
The return of Turbulent Timeways for multiple seasons, and usually they release Turbulent Timeways ahead of a new season content, whether it is Season 2, Season 3, or even Season 4, which was kind of like a holdover season to give us something to do until War Within. It's not a real season, but they still added a Turbulent Timeways event either way, with Turbulent Timeways throughout the Dragonflight expansion almost being like an update that signals when the patch releases, and they usually had the next season content release as Turbulent Timeways ends, which right now would be on the 25th.
There it is, yeah, February 25th. Turbulent Timeways right now ends on February 25th, which is, to me, is the perfect date for the release of this patch. That's why I think we're getting this patch on February 25th. And don't forget, guys, the new season, some people are like, oh, but the new season not starting on that. The new season doesn't start when the patch hits. The patch is going to hit, and then usually a week or two later, the new season and the new raid opens. So all of that lines up perfectly with February 25th being the release date. You quest up for a week or two, and then bam, the new season's going to hit with the new raid opening up, in March, which would be perfect.
Which right now seems also like a viable day because it is on a Tuesday, and usually, at least over for the anime
Same watch
rounds,
as
most of these updates do release on a Tuesday. During Dragonflight, Turbulent Timeways was pretty reliable as a means of predicting when the next update was going to be dropping, and right now for War Within, it is really a matter of...
I did not pre-watch this, okay? I just already knew the Turbulent Timeways hint, and I've been saying this for a little while now, is that when Turbulent Timeways ends, the next patch hits, and that's February 25th.
Time for us to see if Turbulent continues to be the predicting factor in terms of letting us know when seasonal content is going to be arriving. Also, what's interesting to note is apparently patch 11.1 isn't the only thing that they're working on right now, which is the major big content for the War Within expansion, but apparently they've already started to work on 11.15 as well, as that is already in production. Data mining tools have been able to discover that an internal build for the first 11.15 update is currently live but not available for testing. It isn't something that we can access over on the PTR, which is the public testing realms, but it's like an internal dev build where Blizz has access to and developers have access to, but we don't just yet. But we know and we can tell that work is underway to get 11.15 ready. What's interesting to note too is usually the only way we can even data mine or even figure out that they are working on a new build internally is only with Blizzard releasing that little bit of information out there, where we can know that they're working on 11.15, but we can't see it just yet. We wouldn't know that they're working on it unless Blizzard released it out there into the wilds on purpose. So this is them kind of signaling to us that they're still and already begun work on the next update, even as Season 2 is right about to release, which is interesting. And they've done this for a long time now. But 11.15 features does have some brand new content. From the roadmap that was released a while ago, we know things like Nightfall, which we have no clue what that is, but apparently some brand new content.
This is the big thing for 1.5, Horrific Visions Revisited. That's going to be the big piece of content there. And yeah, the fact that they're working on it now, again, is another hint that 11.1 is ready to go.
It is going to be on the horizon. If I had to guess, Nightfall will likely be some sort of a Void themed, as based by the namesake of it. It's going to be some sort of a Void theme event, but maybe some kind of a catch-up event as well, as it is going to be a 0.5 update. It'll be a pretty good time for them to do some kind of a big refresher for the season.
It's going to be story content,
nice for
too.
To be some sort of a catch-up event. Or
yeah, I mean, if you look at if you look at this, based on what they're showing here, it's a big story content, new content, Nightfall. It's going to be all about the story. Really, 11.15 is, to me, the transition into the start of the Midnight story. And that's what's going to be big about 11.15.
Some sort of a catch-up event, or maybe even just new content for us to do and discover.
No, you're
They're also going to be revisiting Horrific Visions, which you can technically access right now, but they're not really designed for current play. And even getting into Horrific Visions, if you haven't played in BFA, it is a journey and quite a few quest lines for players to get into. But it's their attempt to make more content evergreen and WoW, kind of like they did with the Mage Tower, allowing players to go back to the Legion specific piece of content and earn a variety of different collectibles, but also challenge themselves and give players even more stuff to do in game. So Horrific Visions was kind of like this progressing solo or group content feature where you had to do a little bit of sanity management, exploring your way through the deeper depths of either a twisted version of Ogrimmar or Stormwind.
Right.
The further you delve, the more your sanity can be impacted, fighting a variety of challenging mini-bosses and big boss encounters, which can further upgrade the difficulty of the final bosses you have to defeat.
I wonder how they're going to handle the sanity meter and everything, because if you guys remember, it was all about the cape that we had and how we buffed the cape and you'd be able to handle, being inside of the nightmare for longer. Well, that cape is gone. Are they going to make us re-level the cape or continue to buff the cape or re-equip? I don't know how they're going to do that whole thing. But the cape that Rathian gave us, a lot of people probably don't even have it anymore, or it's sitting in people's banks. How are they going to work with this whole sanity meter? I have no idea.
Where you have to plan around your route and collect as much treasure as you can while managing your sanity within the vision, but you also want to make sure that you're prepared enough to tackle the final boss. The further they delve into him, the stronger the final boss becomes, given multiple different mechanics and becoming more powerful as you explore further into the vision. So it was like an interesting minigame of managing resources of insanity, exploration within this twisted version, collecting as many treasures and items as you can, but also making sure that you're as strong as you can be in order to defeat the final boss and make your way out of it with all of the treasures available. So it's going to be interesting to see what type of void theme rewards they're likely going to fill with the return of this piece of content. 11.15 also features more holiday updates, specifically Children's Week, which I barely partake in, but it's good to see that there's even more updates in the future. But also with it being a 0.5 update, it usually means there's likely going to be a ton more class changes overall. As we've seen with previous 0.5 patches, that usually ends up being a really good time for them to do some refreshers for certain few class specs.
Right.
Season 2 is bringing with it a bunch of revamps for things like hunters, warlocks, mages, shamans, and a variety of other classes, either through tuning changes or different hero talent adjustments or talent revamps altogether. Though not all classes are affected in the same way, and 0.5 will be a fantastic time for them to pick up the slack on a handful of classes that didn't get nearly as much attention for the development of 11.1, which I'm incredibly excited for. So even though 11.15 doesn't look like it's going to be a big update, like Season 2 major content patch, but it is most likely going to have a variety of features and a ton of different class changes that are going to have a fairly high impact either way.
Yeah, so maybe Demon Hunters will get more changes. I know they feel like they've been abandoned in this patch, but we just went over some more changes. Demon Hunters were affected slightly. A lot of these class changes, whether or not they were big or not, yes, in the 0.5 patch, a lot of these get revisited and retweaked.
So as of right now, for the predictions for patch 11.1, based on some of the events that are available, plus with them also starting production on 11.15, many players predict that it's going to be a slightly longer patch cycle than 8 weeks, which is what a lot of us have been expecting out of patch 11.1. Because if it was an 8-week patch cycle, we would have been seeing the release of 11.1 on February the 11th. And it's possible that they could just surprise drop this update on us out of nowhere, but it's very unlikely.
That's the thing. I'm worried. I mean, now maybe they had this plan because Turbulent Timeways, again, doesn't end to the 25th, so maybe this was the plan all along. But if this release is beyond the 25th, that's when I'm starting to think, like, okay, maybe there's issues. Maybe there's problems going on. Maybe it's the drive system, the new Mythic Plus system, the new Raid Renown system. I don't know. There are a lot of systems being introduced in this patch, and any one of them could break the game, I'm sure. But that starts to make me think that something might be broken.
Blizz usually likes to put up some kind of a big blue post, letting players know when the season is going to be ending, allowing players that are PvPing or doing Mythic Plus or raiding.
It was very weird that they had the whole 2025 looking back post where they talked about everything that happened and everything going forward, and we didn't get a release date in that thing. And that thing happened last week. I think it was like Wednesday. So that whole thing was released and still no release date. Makes me think like, oh shit, what is going on? They're still not sure about the 25th yet.
Wrap up all of the seasonal rewards and prepare for season 2 content, and they haven't done that kind of an announcement.
It's going to be broken, I know.
They are usually very diligent about releasing that type of an update for everybody to be clued in as to when new content is going to be arriving. So as we're heading closer and closer to the release date between the 18th of February, the end of Plunderstorm, or 25th of Turbulent Timeways, it does seem like the conservative measures state that it's probably going to be on the 25th, because we haven't seen any official blue posts or announcements regarding like a 2-week notice for the season's end, unless it's like a 10-day notice or a 1-week notice. But as we're heading closer to the 11th, 18th date becomes less and less likely, with 25th becoming a more likely option. Yeah. But for any of you, and I know there's a lot of you that are actually looking to take a 2-week notice before you dive and degen into season 2 content, I really would wait.
Does anyone require a 2-week notice? He keeps saying 2 week. You need a 2-week notice to take time off. I thought the 2-week notice was when for like you're quitting your job. 2-week notice for time. I mean, I don't need 2-week notice. Now, I do like to give at least a couple days. But 2 weeks seems a bit excessive for vacation time. I don't know, maybe.
To see when they'll have an actual official blip post regarding the season and update. Because right now, it's still up in the air whether this patch comes out this month or potentially on the 4th of March. And if anything, it's probably best just to play it as safe as possible in terms of figuring out what is the best time to get your PTO.
I mean, you're a lawyer, that's not a job. True.
Content. But definitely wait for an official announcement so we have a better idea. But it is very likely that we're getting the new update either in 2 weeks or 3 weeks based on some of the estimates that we have within the community. But with that being said, as always, I do want to thank all of you guys so much for watching and hope you guys did enjoy this little update. If you did enjoy it or found it informative, go ahead and give this video a like. I would very much appreciate it. Join our Discord community if you want to get regular, up-to-date news when it comes to 11.1 and any of the different class changes, especially as Season 2 launches. Also, let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. And as always, I'll see all of you guys in the next one.
Yeah, here's one thing I will say. If you are taking time off, do not take the patch day off. That is dumb as shit because, first of all, most likely server time will be extended, like a downtime. That thing's not even going to release until like 6 o'clock, Eastern time. So most likely you would already be off of work anyways, and then when it does release, it'll be severely broken. So I would take the next day off. That's how I always do it. When I want to stream for a long day, even if it's the release of the expansion, I'm like, the next day. That's the better day to play. The next day is the day you want to take off, not the day it releases. First week of new patch is usually broken and screwed. True. That is also true. Maybe take the next week off instead. Sam got his law degree from a cereal box. He told me in a Moishi interview. True. Yeah, I got it from a Frosted Flakes box. That's right. Good video from Dalaran. Not bad. I'll link this in the chat.